Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Hannah.
Now that I've gotten Brandon all very eat the rich feeling, we're gonna go ahead and record
She,
a
this bitch
podcast.
ended a rant seconds before I hit record.
It's about a ridiculous amount of money that people are making for
Yeah,
the
and
yeah.
she's like out to make me mad right before we start recording.
Like, let's record a podcast.
Well, mission accomplished, Hannah. Thank you for
Eat the
that.
rich, guys. It's fine.
Oh man, excuse me. Sorry. How's everyone doing? How's it going? It's been a minute. Um,
We hope the weather is like it is here for you guys because it's been absolutely lovely the last couple of days.
Yeah, except for all the flooding still going on in certain
Yeah,
parts of Kentucky, which is awful. But
awful.
yeah.
Yesterday felt like fall.
hmm
It was overcast the whole day and only like 68 degrees.
And in case you guys were wondering, Hannah is still pregnant as fuck. She's getting bigger by the day.
Listen, there's the loveliest lady in the cafe at work that works there. And she's so sweet, but love her heart. She keeps going, "Oh, you're getting big." And I'm like, you should probably only say that to like babies and toddlers,
You're
but
describing my entire middle school experience.
you're getting big. I'm like, thanks. I'll
Every
say that. People that have
every
recording are gonna get to see Billy.
Oh my gosh. Little
I came
Brandon
home yesterday and
Bradley.
shoved myself into like my favorite t-shirt with Nosferatu on it.
Yeah.
And like I'm glad it's really long because I can like squish myself into it. And I walked in the living room, I was like, my belly sticks out further than my boobs now.
Pretty sure you
I
just
was like,
unlocked
oh
an
my god.
achievement.
Right. I was like, look how cute he looks in Nosferatu. I was like, oh my god, what is wrong with you?
Little
I
goth
just love this
baby.
t-shirt as well. It's my favorite shirt. And I do this stupid little dance every time I put it on. I call it my Nosferatu dance. My husband loves me, I swear. You get excited about the little things, okay?
Yeah, I mean that's what life's about, you know. And if you want to see the Nosferatu dance, then subscribe to. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not doing the
Um,
Nosferatu dance for you guys. I'm sorry. Not today. Maybe after I pop this baby out, we do like a drunk episode.
but yeah, we've never done that. We've discussed doing that, but
We discussed doing that, and then I got pregnant.
how dare you?
I know.
How dare you inconvenience me and the fans this way?
I know. I'm the fucking worst. But yeah, podcast. We're back.
Yeah, we're here. Um, for now.
Dun
um,
dun dun.
it's starting to get towards spooky season, which is exciting.
It's already spooky season in here.
Oh, you know what I am? Okay, listen. So my emotions keep changing about it, but you know they're rebooting Interview with the Vampire on
As a
AMC.
show.
Yeah. And at first I was reading about it and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like I'm really torn about it. Um Mainly because of changes to the story that I feel like are unnecessary. Like
Yeah.
the fact that um when uh Louis is being interviewed at the beginning of the show, he's in
Mm-hmm.
Dubai.
Why though?
I don't know. Unless maybe they're gonna try to tie
Something
it in.
fancier.
Well, unless maybe they're gonna try to tie it in with some of the later stories where a lot of stuff happens in Egypt. Maybe that's the reason he's there, so he's closer to the Middle East. But I don't
That's
know.
weird.
I don't have any issues with them recasting him with a
Grey
mixed
worm.
guy because he is a great actor, and
He's a Grey Worm.
I do think it's going to be more difficult for them to tell a story of somebody in New Orleans in the 1700s who's black, you
Yeah.
know, but at the same time that is probably going to add more dimension to his character.
As
Um
long as they don't just ignore the fact like they do in Bridgerton, just like
well, isn't that the
half
whole
the
point?
aristocracy is
Isn't that the
black.
whole
And
point of Bridgerton is that it's like a
yeah.
it's
Maybe
kind of
it's
like
like a fantasy thing, but
yeah.
I'm just saying they could do it that way and just ignore the fact that he's a half black man in New
Yeah.
Orleans, which
Yeah,
we'll see.
I don't know. I want them to handle things the correct way. I think certain characters it doesn't matter if they get recast wrong. Like so far, I really don't like the fact that the guy that's interviewing him is an old dude.
Yeah,
Cause
it's
like,
weird.
yeah, cause like, who was he in the original? Was it Christian Slater? I think was,
Yes, it was
and
Christian Slater.
and then later on in the books, he gets turned into a vampire.
Now you're gonna have an old vampire. Spoiler. Spoiler
There's
alert.
already a old anyway. It's but I'm pretty excited about it. After
I'll
that,
give it a shot.
yeah, after that first trailer came out, I was like, okay, I'll I'll do it. Um, but yeah, so I'm hyped for that. And then in the same realm as like horror type stuff, Sandman is the shit.
Oh God,
It
it's
is
so
so
good.
good.
It's so good and it's so true to the source material. Like they did
Yeah.
such a good job.
And that's another one of those things where people online keep bitching about like characters being cast as like different races. And Neil Gaiman himself is like, these motherfuckers can change how they look at any moment.
Yeah,
And
they're
they
fucking
do.
eternal beings.
They do
Yeah,
throughout
why?
history.
Yeah.
And it's just so dumb.
I
And I
love people
hate
that are like, they're trying to be too woke these days. And I'm like, do you know how old this source material is? And like,
yeah,
no, this is just Neil Gaiman. You've never read anything by him, apparently.
exactly. And I don't know. I hate people trying to gatekeep stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even in the sense of like I've seen people complaining that like, oh, you shouldn't watch it if you've not read everything already. It's like
They did a really good job though. Like it's very close.
well, I watched an interview with the guy that plays Morpheus, and he was talking about how they did different screen tests with different makeup and stuff, and
Mhm.
they had him 100% comic accurate. Like super pale skin and like black eyes and shit. And they
Mhm.
said that like he said that like in scenes where he was supposed to be just like walking down the street, it was too hard to do the suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
where he's just casually walking by people, you know?
I love that they gave him a more modern outfit when he's out in the world. Like he
Yeah.
obviously he's wearing a t-shirt.
I
He's
do
got his
like though that
ridiculous long dramatic coat, but
I do still like though that he's kind of got like the 80s hair, you
oh my
know?
God, he's like every girl's emo dream. Are you fucking kidding me?
And
But
I
they
saw people
cast him so well in his voice, and when he narrates, all I can
oh,
hear is
his
Neil
voice is
Gaiman coming out of his
fantastic.
mouth too.
Yeah.
He had to have practiced that because Neil Gaiman narrates a ton of his own books for the audiobooks. And so, but when he narrates, it's the same.
I've been trying to do the voice, like I'll randomly say things to Bradley, like, I am endless.
God, he's such a whiny emo kid too.
Yeah, and it
But
speaks
I
to
mean,
me.
that's what he's supposed to be.
It speaks to me on so many levels.
You just start
Um,
wearing your hair down to your face.
girl, it's getting there. Um, but yeah, so I've been watching that and loving it. Um, uh, I don't, I don't know of anything else I've been watching recently. Um, oh, that show, The Bear. We watched The Bear.
Did you?
It
I
was
haven't seen
really
it yet.
good. Really fucking good.
I haven't seen it yet.
It doesn't have anything to do with anything spooky or anything like that, but it's just a good show.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We started Reservation Dogs and finished the first season. It's so good.
I want to watch it too. Keep seeing
So fucking good.
I keep seeing
It's
ads for it.
hilarious. Taika Waititi's a producer,
Mm-hmm.
And when it starts, you're like, oh yeah. Better
What
get
We
the
Do in the Shadows is back on.
Yeah, it is. We started that back up because
Can I just say,
holy fuck, I love that show.
if there is any chance on this earth that um Harvey Guillen is listening to this podcast, let me just tell you that I love you. I'm
You
in love
and
with
Phoebe are
you.
like right there. Like she's so
I
obsessed with him.
would do anything for you.
I got her a Guillermo shirt for her birthday one year.
I'm getting one. I didn't know it was a thing.
It's definitely a thing. I think I got it from T Fury.
I
But he's like surrounded. He looks like a tattoo, and he's surrounded by roses and
I love
stuff.
him.
Yeah.
He's my celebrity crush 100%.
Nadja.
I love her
Fucking
too.
kidding. God, I love that woman. There's a British like um flower arranging show, like extreme flower arranging show that she hosts, and I was like, I have to watch that, and it's so good because that's just her.
Yeah.
Apparently, the character of
they're
Nadja is just her.
they're all great though, honestly. Like Matt
He's so,
Berry, the guy that plays Laszlo, he's
oh my
also very
god,
very attractive.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
he's
yeah,
so good. I
I
love that show.
I like how queer it is this season. Like,
Last season was too.
yeah, but I feel like they like really embraced it. Like,
Yeah.
they've mentioned that it's that kind of vampire thing of like all vampires are like a little bit pansexual or whatever. And they just leaned right into it. And when that episode where Nandor was like talking about his 80 wives and he's like, some of my wives were men.
Yeah. Listen, I'm really disappointed in myself not realizing that the Baron is Doug Jones. I'm
Yeah.
like, how have I not realized it this whole freaking time?
Yeah. I mean, I'd never heard his natural speaking voice, I don't think.
I really, God, I love him. God, I love him so much. When we
He's
watch Crimson Peak the whole time, I'm like, it's just Doug Jones. It's just Doug Jones. Hide behind my hands when the monsters come out. They're like, it's Doug Jones.
Wait, wasn't that his natural voice in Hellboy though? So I guess I have heard him before.
Yeah. You just
Okay.
don't. Like, it's not what sticks out when you think about Doug
Well,
Jones. You think
that's the
about it as
problem with
like,
constantly playing characters where your face is in
yeah.
prosthetics, is like nobody knows it's you.
Yeah. I was like, I looked at Tyler, I was like, I'm so disappointed. I should have known this, Doug Jones.
Yeah,
God, I love him. He's so
it's great.
good.
It's great. Um anyway, TV show written.
Whatever.
This
We could have a whole TV show podcast and just talk for
this
hours.
is what happens when we skip a week.
I know. We have to catch up.
What have
Because I
you
spent our talking time beforehand, like, getting him pissed.
yeah, complaining and get me riled up and like fuck capitalism basically. What do you got for us?
We're in Savannah, Georgia this week because it's fucking Savannah, and why not?
I love Savannah. Did I ever tell you that story about how I applied to the art college there? I think I told it on an old
Yeah.
podcast episode. It was really dumb. But they used to do those commercials all the time for the art school there, and it was like, we'll
They
send
did.
you a pamphlet and you draw the character and send it back.
I applied to culinary school in Vermont. Yeah,
Vermont is nice, I hear.
right. I should have gone. I applied to that school because that's the one that Alton Brown went to.
Nice.
So I'm
Nice.
that kind of person. Okay, we're in Savannah. Have you ever heard of the old Pink House in Savannah? It's now a restaurant.
Okay.
So we're just gonna get right into the history because there's quite a bit of history.
Okay.
Building on the Pink House began in 1771 and was not finished until 1789.
Damn.
This put it, yeah, right. So we're also reading from nightlyspirits.com. This put its building solidly during the Revolutionary War. This makes the Pink House about as old as buildings in America get. For anybody not from America and don't know about the Revolutionary War, this is whenever America separated from England.
Mm-hmm.
We're like the king.
Yeah, right after the Tea Party where we said fuck.
This is whenever my husband goes, whatever, we left that bullshit country because he's an asshole. The original owner of the home, James Habersham Jr., was a Revolutionary War soldier who fought for freedom before the war ever began. James grew up with his two brothers who wanted freedom and a father who was loyal to the crown. This
Samps.
right, this made the three brothers fight for a free America even more rebellious and difficult as it tore their family apart. The brothers were all part of the original Sons of Liberty. All three brothers fought to free the colonies from the rule of the British, even as their father remained loyal. James Habersham Sr. was one of the richest men in the colonies. He owned a cotton plantation and enough slaves to keep it running. James Sr. was the first person to begin sending cotton to Britain and remained loyal to the crown until he died.
Another Samp.
His loyalty was difficult for his sons to understand, and they obviously gave their loyalty to the opposite side of the war. Though he was a loyalist and a slave owner, he did start the first orphanage in the U.S. He died brokenhearted as the British lost and his sons fought against him.
Damn. Guess that's what you get for owning slaves.
Right.
Piece of shit.
So, spoiler alert, the guy that built the house owned slaves. He wanted to be away from England, apparently didn't really care about everybody's rights.
Yeah,
So
like, oh, we don't want the king telling us what to do, but
we're gonna tell these people what to do.
I'm gonna buy a person.
Yeah. And the three brothers fought valiantly in the Revolutionary War and earned a name for themselves in the colonies. The youngest of the three was a great soldier. The middle was a rebel with a cause and more radical than his two brothers. And James was a great soldier who worked his way through the ranks. James Jr. was eventually given the title of major and served the colonies well. His middle brother, Jan Brady Habersham.
What?
The most famous of the brothers is he's the one of the men who marched into the British governor's mansion and arrested him. The heroism of all three brothers in the war was enough to make the Habersham name a respected one among the colonies. During the war, the Pink House was used by British soldiers for housing. This upset James Jr., but there was little he could do about it while the war was still raging. When the war ended, he resumed building on his home and solidly removed any memory of the British in his home. Right.
So fuck all these crumpets.
Yeah. When James Jr. finally finished his home after the war ended, it was beautiful and regal. He built it as a status symbol, and it certainly was one. James Jr. went on to own a plantation and spent most of his life raising his children and trying to keep his house from turning pink. You heard that right. He was trying to keep his house from turning pink.
No.
James Habersham Jr., the original owner of the Pink House, built his home to entertain. He loved big parties and guests. He is touted as one of the kind Southern gentlemen who oozed charm. This made the Pink House a lively and beautiful place, even at the very beginning of its time in Savannah. He owned a cotton plantation and slaves, making him one of the men that the U.S. would eventually rightfully condemn. Though he fought to free the colonies, he was not a man who believed in the freedom of all humans.
Of course not.
This might be why the old Pink House has so many restless spirits wandering the halls. James Jr. did not want a pink home. He covered the red bricks of his home with white plaster, but the red seeped through no matter how much plaster he piled on, making the home look pink. This was unacceptable and caused the Habershams to be mocked in the town for their pink house. Wow. The rest of the Habershams' life was spent throwing parties, owning a plantation, and trying to cover the house in enough plaster to keep the red from showing through. He never managed to keep the house from turning pink, which he despised and resented. Right? I was like, oh my God.
That level of insecurity, damn.
Finally, in the 1920s, a woman purchased the house and just painted the whole thing pink to keep from spending an absurd amount of money on plaster every year.
Hell yeah.
In 1912, the home was used as Planter's Bank. During this time, the pink of the home was still being covered with plaster, as apparently a pink bank was not ideal. After the Civil War, the home was used as an office, a tea room, and a bookstore at different times before it was finally purchased by the woman who allowed it to be pink. Since then, the house has been proudly pink and remained a staple of Savannah. The old pink house has been painted the same shade of pink every year since it's finally allowed to be pink.
I'm looking at pictures of it and it's actually beautiful.
It's a beautiful house.
Also pictures have come up of like the lunch they serve there and it looks fucking
Oh yeah, it's a
delicious.
restaurant, and I'd be totally down.
Yeah.
This historic house survived being invaded by the British, the War of 1812, the Civil War, and the fires of 1820. This makes it one of the most resilient buildings in America, as very few buildings have seen the things the Pink House has stood through. Even as most of Savannah fell or burned, the Pink House stood strong. It's one of the oldest buildings in the US and has enough history in it to keep plenty of ghosts wandering the halls.
Let's get to the good stuff.
Get to the good stuff. The ghosts of the Pink House in Savannah. There are plenty of ghost stories that have come out of the Pink House. Very few of the ghosts have a known identity, as it's suspected many of the ghosts walking the halls were slaves and their children. This makes it hard to tell who exactly is haunting the Pink House. The first ghost of the Pink House is suspected to be none other than James Habersham Jr. James officially died of natural illness and was buried with his family. There is a story, however, that James killed himself in the basement of the Pink House after he found his wife cheating on him.
Damn.
The story suggests that this was covered up so that James could still be buried on church property with the rest of his family. The other side of this tale suggests James killed himself from heartbreak after his wife died. There's no actual evidence that James Habersham Jr. killed himself except for his ghost that still wanders his old home.
Damn.
His ghost is said to be seen in the basement that now acts as a tavern for the Pink House restaurant. He's also said to order drinks from the bar staff occasionally and toast with unwitting patrons at the restaurant. This makes him the most famous ghost.
Okay, a basement tavern sounds so cool.
Right? Yeah. There's a Revolutionary War soldier, possibly James, who is seen sitting at the bar, drunk and smiling. He orders drinks and makes a toast with the bar patrons, only to disappear before taking a drink. The spirit is vivid enough that many people who see him say that they thought they were talking to a reenactor before that he disappeared in front of their eyes.
Damn.
Can you like okay, we're
Chills.
in America, like there's so many Civil War soldiers, like ghosts. How many freaking revolutionary soldiers do you see or
Yeah,
hear about?
not many.
The last of the hauntings attributed to James is the cleanliness of the restaurant. Many workers report seeing James fixing tablecloths and rearranging chairs to make everything look neat. He is apparently particularly concerned with the candles that sit on the table of the restaurant. James keeps all the candles lit and makes sure that they don't go out. One worker said that they were closing the restaurant and turned around to find every candle in the restaurant lit when they had just been dark.
Damn.
The candles of the Pink House are actually rather famous, as many patrons report seeing the flames die out and relight rather suddenly. If you intend to eat at the restaurant, make sure to sit at a table with a candle and pay attention to any possible signs of the supernatural.
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm so down.
Right? The
Ghosts
other
and
ghosts,
food. Ugh.
right? Yeah. The other ghosts that haunt the Pink House do not have identities. Many are said to be slave children that died in the fires or of yellow fever 100 years or more ago. These children are the most playful and mischievous ghosts that haunt the restaurant, and you're likely to encounter one if you are alone for too long.
I like to think that part of the reason why James like stays in the basement and tries to like help out and stuff is because he's like the children torment him like if he goes upstairs because he was a fucking slave owner.
Right? Many women who go to the bathroom in the basement come out saying someone held the stall door closed and they had to throw their body against the door to get out. Not okay with that. Menus and glasses of wine are knocked over and spilled when there is no way that should have fallen. Bar workers are hit on the head with bottles while their backs are turned and no one is standing behind them. In one of the most intriguing ghost evidence cases ever recorded, the Pink House security camera caught a figure floating down a hallway and then disappearing. This footage, captured in 2011, has many people believing ghosts and ended many debates on whether ghosts exist. There are certainly some strange happenings going on. The final ghost of the Pink House has only ever been heard. As the restaurant was being locked up, the workers heard a woman weeping upstairs. The building had already been checked and was entirely empty when her wails were heard.
I looked up the video of the ghost walking down the hallway. I'm about to watch it.
Does it make you super believe in ghosts? Are you a true believer now?
Girl, I have been. Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to. I don't think it's shown it yet. There was like an orb.
It should be like a legit mist going down the hallway.
Some girl just ran down the hallway. You know what one of my pet peeves is? I think we've mentioned this before, inevitably, when we've talked about ghost adventures, is that like I really hate it when people are like, give us a sign, show yourselves, and then they fucking like lose their shit
When
when
they get a
something
sign.
happens.
Yeah.
It's like, you asked for this.
Right. It
What do
happens
you
in a lot of like nukes videos. Like people are like, tell us you're here. Holy shit, did you hear that?
Yeah, and then they start running,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
The
I'm
ghosts are
sorry.
like, I just want to hang out. You said
I'm
I could say
sorry.
hi.
You can't have it both ways. Like, you can't be like, you can't be all antagonistic and acting like a badass and then also be like, oh my God.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a
Wish they would.
difference between being like really respectful and being like, give us a sign, let us know you're here, blah, blah, blah. Then you see a fucking like serpent goat demon come out of the ground and you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? But
That's when you're allowed to be afraid.
yeah, but if you're like, oh, we're talking to the spirit of a little girl, and you hear like a child giggle, don't be like, what was that? Bitch, she's answering you. What do you mean?
You wanted to talk. Why are you upsetting the ghosts?
Yeah.
Damn.
Rude. You came into their house being all loud.
What bills are you paying to be slamming doors?
You're running up their light bill.
Oh god.
Oh, no, that's a good one though. That's really interesting. I've never heard of that
It
place.
had good long history and it's a really cool house. And I love that dumbass kept trying to make his house not pink and it just wasn't happening.
I can totally see this being like the setting for one of those kind of like edgy horror shows like a Ryan Murphy, you know, American Horror Story type deal. Because
Definitely.
there's like a weird juxtaposition between it being like this pastel pink house and then all this crazy supernatural shit goes on inside. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah,
One of the oldest houses in the country.
that's crazy.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I keep just seeing their different food items, and I'm like, bruh.
That means it's dinner time.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I love food so
This
much.
is usually a food podcast, so
It will be one day.
they know.
We'll just call it
One day when we just suddenly change the name and like with no introduction start talking about food only. It's like a food and horror, yeah, horror podcast.
yeah, and then we'll only talk about like the shows we're watching.
Yeah, and the food we've been eating.
What the fuck is this microphone moving? Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot because I have my foot on the desk and I'm like moving it with my foot. Anyway, thanks for that, Hannah. That was very interesting. I'm glad you picked that one.
I'm glad I could piss you off and then entertain you.
Yeah, thank you. That, I mean, really, like, I deserved that from you after you ruined my day. Um, who went last for our
Probably you,
plugs?
so I'll do
Okay.
it. You guys can send us your own personal ghost stories. We would love to hear them. We heard from a new listener recently, so hi.
Hey.
But you can send those to us through email, ghostwrittenpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GhostWrittenPod. If you don't want to send us any stories, just stop by and say hi.
We
Because
like
we
it when
like to
people say.
talk Brandon's Aaron Mankey today. I was listening to some other podcast and Tyler goes, "Who is that Aaron Mankey?" And I'm like, I listened to way too much lore around you.
He's a pretty distinct voice, to be fair.
He does, but it wasn't Aaron Mankey.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway, send us your personal stories. Stop by and say hi. We're pretty active on Facebook, especially so because we're old people. So
And if
come
you want to
say
see
hi.
them fire memes,
Them fire memes, all about the spooky things and cryptids.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's that time, Brandon. Did I forget something?
Yeah.
What?
Patreon.
Oh yeah, we have a Patreon. Fuck me. Patreon.com/ghostwritten. You can see all the recordings from these episodes. Look at our beautiful faces. Fuck you, Brandon.
And get some special content that we post on there very sporadically.
Content. Yeah, we're not good at it. But it's cheap. So you always get the episode recordings too.
Yeah.
Now it's time. Fuck.
Ooh. Fuck.